Hey everyone, welcome back to Launch Codes Football. My name is Chris.
And I'm Chelsea.
Jesse, you seem to be laughing about something. I don't know
Yeah,
exactly what it is.
yeah. I am laughing about something now that you ask me about that.
What is that?
So you guys, listen to the podcast and you watch it on YouTube. And when we first started the podcast, Chris like always does the intro, like the welcome to Launch Codes Football. This is Chris and this is Chelsea, just a standard regular intro. Well, let me just tell you, the first time we tried to record this episode, Chris breathed in right as he hit the record button and he was like, welcome to Lunch. And that's what just happened
Uh,
before this started. He literally looked me in the camera and opened his mouth and went, welcome to Launch Codes Football. Dude, gets me every time.
Classic Chris. Well, anyways, we're going to be talking today about Super Wild Card Weekend. And indeed, it was wild as portrayed. So let's get right into it. So the first game we've got here, the Bills absolutely stomped the Patriots at home.
Which I loved, by the way, in case
Yeah,
anyone was wondering.
I would have
It was
never
great. It
imagined.
was a great time.
Josh
I'm
Allen went
thriving.
21 of 25 for 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 6 rushes for 66 yards.
It's a pretty good day.
That is a very good day. You only have to throw 25 times, you blow out the other team, and you have 5 touchdowns on
No
the day.
turnovers.
Oh, goodness. Honestly, I'm pretty sure this game, to be real, was the Bills being salty for 20 plus years of losing to the Patriots. I mean, like, there was a point in the game where it was over, but they were still throwing it deep to like Dawson Knox and he caught it and then they put it in the end zone. But I mean, they gave it to one of their offensive linemen. I don't know. They weren't like sweating that hard, but I was like, this is definitely like, hey, you've beaten us for so long and we don't like you. You beat us one time at home, or yeah, it was at home when during that whole windy Monday Night Football game. And they don't like the fact they lost that game. And so they came out and blew the Patriots out in the regular season. And then they came out and blew them out again. So that not only did they blow them out in Foxborough, they came back home and redeemed themselves. So this is a really nice story for the Bills, in my opinion. If you're a Patriots fan, though, man, this was a tough beatdown. I'm not even gonna lie. What do you think, Chelsea?
Catch me playing my tiny violin. Do 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 do. Yeah.
That was
You guys
beautiful.
got thrashed. Absolutely dismantled. And I know that me sitting here being all happy about how you guys lost is going to be totally irrelevant because all the replies are going to be, at least we made it to the playoffs and didn't lose because we couldn't beat the worst team in the league. So trust me, I already know what you guys are going to say. So let me have my moment. Okay, this was glorious.
Indeed, for many people it was, especially those who hate the Patriots.
I
So
just severely dislike them,
fair
mind
enough.
you.
But yeah, I mean, I don't really know what else there is to talk about in this game. Bills just outplayed the Patriots. Patriots just looked like they had nothing. It's really good, like just no answers on defense, especially. They gave up
Which was
7 straight
surprising.
drives for touchdowns in this game. Like every drive is just touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not winning a game like that.
No, I mean, I think if you asked any reasonable NFL fan which side of the ball they thought they had more of a shot against the Bills on, I think pretty much all of them would say the defense. I mean, the Patriots had one of the best defenses in the entire league for pretty much the whole year, and they got absolutely dismantled, which was honestly embarrassing. I mean, think about all the veterans they have on that defense. I mean, think about how they had been performing the entire year. I mean, that was really surprising to see. Like, I thought that the Bills were going to win, but I didn't think that they were going to blow out the Patriots because their defense was good. Now, if we're being reasonable, did anyone really think that Mac Jones was going to outduel Josh Allen? Like, no. Mac Jones is fine, but he's not better than Josh Allen. And if you put the two head to head, Jones was never going to win, right? But I mean, the defense for the Patriots had been good all year. I mean, the Bills hadn't really had that much of a prominent rushing game the entire year. They come out, they run the ball well against the Patriots, who had a really stout running defense most of the year. So it was really just kind of a total breakdown defensively for the Patriots, which was very surprising. And it was definitely a disappointing way to end your season if you are the Patriots, because Bill Belichick and the ownership went out and spent more money on top tier free agents this year than they had in any other year in Belichick's history of being with the Patriots. So they thought that they could do it. I mean, they went out and poured all of this money into all of these different people, some of whom panned out, like Hunter Henry, right? Some of who did not, like Nelson Aguilar, So, I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what they do, right? Because they poured all this money into all of these people and they don't have a ton of money to work with this offseason, as far as I know. I think they're somewhere in the middle. Like, they have a little bit to work with, but they're not like near the top or anything. So it'll definitely be interesting to see what this team looks like next year. Like, I think they have the pieces on offense to be good. And I think they have the pieces on defense to be good. It's just everyone else.
I agree. I think there's some pieces there, and certainly I don't think the Patriots are done. They got a young quarterback, and
unfortunately,
who's shown that he can play. You're right. To a lot of people, they aren't happy about it. So we'll see what the Patriots do. Maybe Belichick will always remember this game.
You can never count them out, though. Even if they look like they don't have a bad roster or they have a bad roster, you can never count out the Patriots. Mm-hmm. It's just in their DNA.
Next, we've got the 49ers upsetting the Cowboys in Dallas. Everyone knows about this game. Which I picked,
by the way. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Everyone knows about this game. I mean, honestly, the best part of this was definitely the Nickelodeon broadcast. Personally.
That's fair. Like, I will say Nick Bosa's slime at the end of the game, though, totally lame. They should have gotten more.
That's so funny. But yeah, this game, big shock to a lot of the country, but also to those, what is it, the Stephen A. Smith line? He's like, the Cowboys, they will find a way.
Them Cowboys.
I love Stephen A. Smith when he talks about the Cowboys.
Walked in the day after with the biggest cowboy hat on I'd ever seen. Dude. You gotta respect the trash talk. I mean, he never fails.
Literally, he always says they will find a way. I love it. I love that bit. I won't even lie. But Cowboys really in this game. I mean, okay. They've got to win this game. In my opinion, this is a game.
You're at home.
At home. You're playing a 49ers team who's not that bad, and they're definitely like difficult to beat because they're not a traditional pass happy offense like you see nowadays. But they're
not the Packers or the Bucks.
Yeah.
Or the Rams.
I agree. And so I really think that this game kind of showed to me, well, the problem with the Cowboys this year earlier, they really did look like a Super Bowl contender. They had a great running game, a great quarterback, and they still have a good quarterback. I'm not saying that those things, but the thing was, all of those things were firing on all cylinders, and the defense was starting to go up. I mean, they turned their defense into from an all-time bad defense into a pretty good one,
Which, can we take a moment to acknowledge that at my job, there was someone who was a Falcons fan, right? He was a fan when the Falcons played the Patriots, when Dan Quinn was the coach, right? And then, the Falcons had their meltdown, whatever, and they lost the Super Bowl. And then Dan Quinn got hired by the Cowboys. And my coworker was like, Cowboys defense is going to be terrible. Dan Quinn. And every time we'd ask him what his reason was, he would just say Dan Quinn and sit there. And that's all. So really, this is quite a redemption arc for Dan Quinn.
There you go. Well, either way, I don't know. I don't think, we have here, like, is Dak overrated? Jimmy Garoppolo was mediocre. Yeah, he did enough to win. So you know what? And Dak didn't, I thought. To be honest, I think that especially that last play, I mean, that was...
Oh, man.
I know that everyone... And yes, there is a partial, blame for the ref there, but the problem is that play is very risky because everything has to go perfectly for it to work.
And you have no timeouts.
Exactly. So I really thought, and to be honest, they probably, whether they even should have had that shot. I mean, they probably should have just scored the drive before, to be honest, because, that was what everyone really thought was their last chance,
And I mean,
instead
the
of having.
49ers had that horrible spot too with the ball. So, I mean, they should have theoretically kept the ball.
I don't know. I just think in general, though, if you're a Cowboys fan, look, Jerry Jones himself said it. When you get this group of guys here on this team, you've gotta win. I don't know if that was a shot at Mike McCarthy or what, but I really think just the end of game coaching wasn't smart. I thought that I just think Dallas really just couldn't get their stuff together at the end of the year. I mean, they just remember the Chiefs and Cowboys played earlier this year. Everyone thought it'd be a big offensive shootout. Dallas's offense didn't look good. Obviously, the Chiefs didn't either, but it's still like you don't really have excuses, in my opinion, I mean, you've got to make this work. Dak has got to play better. The receivers got to catch the ball when they can. And, they've got to move the ball and they've got to win some of these games, like losing against Vegas, losing against the Chiefs. Like sometimes you've got to beat these teams, you know? And so I'm not saying they were terrible. They weren't a terrible team this year, but I really feel like this is very disappointing for Dallas fans. You're hype if you're a 49ers fan. You're like, well, now we've went further than anyone thought we'd be. So props to them, honestly. But I don't know. This is really disappointing for the Cowboys. I mean, this is a game you got to win. You have the talent to do it. You've just got to win it.
Yeah, and I mean, you obviously can't discredit the 49ers, right? Because the
Mm-hmm.
49ers, while they are not the best team in the NFC, no one's going to call them that. They're not to be ignored either. Like they have one of the best rushing attacks in the league. You have Deebo Samuel, who can literally play every position on offense. I mean, you have a good head coach. You have pieces on defense. So I don't know. Maybe the Cowboys just thought, oh, easy game, we'll win. And they underestimated them. I don't know. I will say that play at the end of the game was just extraordinarily dumb. Like, I don't know what Mike McCarthy was thinking. Why on earth would you run a quarterback draw with 16 seconds left or however many were left with no timeouts? Now, if you had a timeout left, okay, like I can get it, because they're not going to expect you to run the ball. So I get that. But like you were saying, Chris, I mean, you need absolutely everything to go perfect for that play to work. And there's just so many moving parts that you just can't guarantee that. And as we saw, it went imperfectly. And then they tried to spot the ball themselves, which everyone knows the rule is you hand the ball to the ref spots it, the ref moves, and then you can hike the ball. That's how football is. That's the rule. You can't spot the ball because players spot the ball wrong because it's not their job. They just put it down and try to snap it. And, you can't do that. And then Dak Prescott at the end of the game has the gall to go to praise fans for throwing trash at the refs. Like, dude, first of all, L. That's an L comment right there. Second of all, if you had played better in this game, you probably would have won. That has nothing to do with the refs. Third of all, you don't praise anyone for throwing anything at anyone. That's just basic human respect. Like, that was a big L from Dak Prescott. And naturally, he put out a statement a day after apologizing. Now, I obviously hope that he was sincere, right? But looking at it, it felt very not sincere. It felt like something his agent typed up and put his name on and sent out. Because the dude was angry. And I mean, Dak Prescott should be angry. He played mediocre. He couldn't control his offense. He only targeted, or CeeDee Lamb only had one catch the entire game. Arguably the best receiver on your team has one catch. What is this game plan? Like, yes, let's throw him off and not throw it to CD at all. That's how we'll get him. Like, no. Use your best players to your advantage. And they just didn't. I mean, they just crapped out. This is why I picked the 49ers to win. Because history is repeating itself. Like the last couple of years, the Cowboys have made it. When they haven't gone anywhere because they choke in the playoffs. That's just how it's been recently. They should not have lost that game. They are a more talented team than the 49ers. They have a considerably better quarterback. Like Dak Prescott is far and away better than Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo played absolutely mediocre in this game, and they still won. And that speaks to how the Cowboys were playing. I mean, Jimmy G was 16 of 25 for 172 yards and an interception and like one rush for 2 yards. He didn't even have a touchdown. Like, dude, how can you not beat a team whose quarterback doesn't even have a touchdown? Like, you'd think in the game plan meetings, they'd go, you know what the 49ers are really good at? Running the ball. You know what we should do? Prevent them from running the ball and make Jimmy G beat us because he's mediocre. But no, what did they do? They ran all over them. So, I mean, you get what you deserve, I guess. I mean, if you're going to come out and play mediocre at home against a team who wants it more than you, like, you can't expect to win. Like, it was just disappointing. If you're a Cowboys fan, you are unimaginably disappointed. Like, this team is way better than how they played, and they should still be in the playoffs. So, I mean, there's not really much else you can say. I think that there's a high probability that Mike McCarthy is going to get fired because he has just made questionable decisions all year. I mean, the dude doesn't even call the plays. Like, he only game plans and makes coaching decisions, and that's it during the game. He doesn't even call the plays, and somehow he's still doing bad. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see, but if you're a Cowboys fan, you are immeasurably disappointed at the results of this game.
There you have it. Chelsea's take on this. I mean, definitely, I think a game a lot of Cowboys fans will be upset over for years.
We got the Rams Cards. So this was a pretty epic game, honestly. If you're a Rams fan, I mean, the Cardinals, they absolutely did not do well during this game. Kyler came out through 19 of 34 for 137 yards and 2 interceptions, which, I mean, you expect a lot better than Kyler Murray. He's a lot better than that stat line indicates. And then, I mean, you look at Matt Stafford, he had a good game this game. I mean, it looked like the Rams finally put it together. Odell had his coming out game with his new team. He had that really fun pass for 40 yards, and he had 4 catches for 54 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, this was a big, big win if you're a Rams fan. Like, not only did the Rams beat a team who is a divisional rival, they also won at home, and pretty much all facets of their team played well when they hadn't been. I mean, we've talked about in previous episodes, like, they haven't been able to put it together with all their superstar players. You know what they did in this game? They put it together. And if they play in the playoffs all together like they did in this game for the rest of the playoffs, they're going to be a hard team to beat because there's no way that you can argue that they're not talented and that they don't want it. I mean, Sean McVay is a great coach. I think Matthew Stafford is a great quarterback. He has had his moments where people have doubted him, but I do still think that he is their guy. So this was a big win for the Rams. And this was just kind of an epitome of the Cardinals season. Like, they started out really strong and then they just fell off a cliff. Like, there's really no other way to put it. I think that the loss of DeAndre Hopkins was way bigger than they admitted because their passing offense struggled. Even with all of the people that they have outside of Hopkins, still struggled. So, I mean, I think that was a huge loss for them. And, you know, D-Hop is arguably one of the best receivers in the league. So when you play against him, he's pretty much an automatic double, right? I mean, the dude's like 6'4", he can jump, he's fast, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, you lose that, and all of a sudden, the team that you're playing against doesn't have to double any of your receivers, right? They can just single coverage everyone, make them beat you. And as we saw, a lot of the times, they just didn't beat them. So, I mean, it's a big loss for the Cardinals for sure.
Yeah, I think honestly, the Cardinals should have played much better than they did. You've got to win this game. Didn't they even beat the Rams earlier this year? You know,
I believe
it's
so.
like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Rams or the Cardinals, in general really just felt also one of those teams. They fell off, in my opinion, a harder cliff than the Cowboys. Like, yes, they took pretty bad injuries, so we're not just going to act like that's no issue, and because it was. But by the end of this year, especially coming from the beginning, they just never looked as good as they were. And I mean, that's just simple as that. The Rams seemed to be in this game. They were ready. They have a lot of guys on there that have been to the playoffs. They know what that atmosphere is like. Some that have been to the Super Bowl. And so props to one, Matt Stafford getting his first playoff win ever.
Which is so shocking to say. Yep. That he only has one playoff win.
And it was this year. So yeah. I don't know. I don't think Kyler's overrated, but he definitely needs that guy like DeAndre Hopkins out there. But I don't know. I think the Cardinals, I mean, as good as they were at times this year, just simply didn't get it done when they needed to in a lot of ways. So I don't know. This kind of game just kind of represents, I mean, it was kind of figures considering how they've ended games this year by the second half. So we'll have to see what they do. I mean, they have turned it around in 2 years. So will they just get better again next year? Maybe they might. But, are you going to start out 7-0 again? Probably not. Chances are in the NFL, you're not going to. Anything can happen. It's not to say you're bad if you don't start out 7-0, but it's just the chances of it are not very high because it's the NFL. Anything can happen. So yeah, that's kind of what I think with that is, are the Cardinals going to be able to improve next year the way they did this year? This was a pretty big, drastic jump from last year, Didn't make the playoffs last year, made the playoffs this year. So, but even last year and this year, not ending the year well. And it's like, what's up with that?
For sure. On to the next game. By far the most predictable and most boring game of all of them. The Chiefs beat the Steelers, which surprises no one. The biggest storyline from this game is this Ben Roethlisberger's last game ever, which it probably is based on how his last home game went. But dude, you want to talk about someone who is wholly identifiable with the Steelers, and that's Ben Roethlisberger. When Ben Roethlisberger is not there in Pittsburgh, the team is just not going to be the same. Not to say that it won't be better, because it could be better. You go out, you get a young superstar quarterback, it could be a lot better. But Ben Roethlisberger personifies what it means to be a Steeler. So when he's not there, it's just going to be weird for the league because we've all gotten so accustomed to him being there for so long. I mean, he's been there for essentially my entire life. I've really never seen anyone else play there outside of him, except when he got hurt, obviously. It's like when Eli Manning retired. It's like, whoa, Eli Manning retired? This is so weird. It's like when Peyton Manning retired. Like, whoa, Peyton Manning retired. That whole class of guys are all starting to retire. Like the guys in like the late 90s, early 2000s, like they're all starting to retire, which is just really weird when you've grown up with those guys and you see them play every week. But I mean, I don't think Ben Roethlisberger expected to win this game. I mean, you look at his interview comments beforehand, he said that they were the worst team in the AFC. So I don't think he expected to win this game. But hey, he got to go to the playoffs in probably his last season ever. So you kind of got to love that, even if you're not a Steelers fan.
Yeah, I know he was kind of joking about it, but he was like, look, let's go have some fun. I think but you are right. He may have recognized, look, we may not be the most talented out there this year, but we'll go out there and give it a shot. And hey, they did go up 7-0 at one point. And then Chiefs just kind of blew open the curtains and it was over. So, yeah, I mean, while it's not surprising, not terrible for the Steelers to go out, Big Ben going out in his last game in a playoff game at least. So, props to him. But yeah, the Chiefs definitely were the better team that night, and probably just overall.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at the next game, the NFC game. I mean, also kind of boring. Um, the Bucks beat the Eagles, as everyone
Convincingly.
assumed that they would. Um, sorry, Kyle. I know that you really wanted your Eagles to win, and trust me, I did too, because I never want Tom Brady to win anything. But unfortunately, that was not the case. Um, as for Jalen Hurts' play during this game, it was not fantastic. It just wasn't. But I think if you look at his season overall, that it was enough, you know? And, Eagles management did come out and say that Hurts was their quarterback for the next year. Like, apparently they're committed to him, but also we've seen the Eagles say that they're committed to someone and then not be committed and then recommit and then uncommit again. So who knows? Maybe they aren't actually committed, but I do think that they should be. Like, I think that Hurts can improve a lot next year, especially if they give him more pieces on offense. So I think that the Eagles offense is looking up. Like, you have Devontae Smith and you have Jalen Hurts and you have some pretty good running backs. I mean, they had the best rushing offense in the league there for a few weeks. So they definitely have potential on offense, and they have some players on defense too. They probably need some more help with defensive playmakers and offense because, they have some Dallas Goedert on offense. So they definitely have some good pieces that they can put together. And I mean, I think generally speaking, their head coach, Nick Sirianni, did a pretty good job. I mean, with what he had, he was the Colts offensive coordinator last year and he got the head coaching role. And we were like, whoa, it's like Inception. Frank Reich was your coordinator. Now he's our coach. And Sirianni was our coordinator. Now he's your coach. It was like, oh, Inception. But, I think that the Eagles were okay. I think people were expecting them to be worse, So I think that things can look up there. Biggest storyline from the game outside of Hurts was probably Tristan Wirfs, the offensive lineman for the Bucks, getting hurt, and then them trying to put him back into the game and him literally limping back to the huddle, and all of the people in America watching the game being like, dude, just take him out. You got the game. Don't put him back in. You're going to need him later. And honestly, it kind of looked like at least a moderate injury that during the regular season would probably keep someone out a week or two, which obviously they can't afford because Tristan Wirfs is really good and Tom Brady needs him. And, so apparently he tried to practice today. Time will tell if he will play during their next game. But if he doesn't, that's a big storyline to watch out for because Tristan Wirfs has been pretty good the entire year. And I mean, the Bucks are playing at home, but they're playing the Rams. So I don't know about you, but I don't want to be the Bucks without Tristan Wirfs going against Aaron Donald and Von Miller and everyone else that they have. Like, I would really want Tristan Wirfs. So hopefully he comes back. But really, outside of that, the Patriots won, or not the Patriots. Look at me. Tom Brady will always be a Patriot in my mind. The Bucks won. They really surprised no one. Yeah, there's really not much else to say, honestly.
Yeah, I think Tom Brady really wanted to beat the Eagles. He was like, you know what? I know we're the better team. Let me just
handle this real quick.
Because, losing to them in the Super Bowl, he probably thinks about a lot. Yeah, he's won all the other times, but I bet you he thinks about those 3 more than the 7.
Anyone else?
Yeah. So either way,
I bet this Manning, felt pretty good. Tom Brady killer.
I bet this felt pretty good to him. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to say. The Bucks were the better team, and it is going to be interesting to see what happens with Tristan Wirfs, and see kind of what that's going to lead to next week. But yeah, you're right. Like, the Rams have a very good defensive line, and I guess we'll get into that a little bit later. But overall, solid win by the Bucks, even though Eagles made a little bit of a comeback. Not really, but either way, yeah, this game just kind of happened, I think, the way a lot of people expected it to happen.
This game was boring and we turned the TV on to something else until the next one came on. So I feel like that just kind of sums up what happened.
And then the last game we got here is the Bengals versus Vegas game. And the Bengals did win this game. It's been the first time since like
They
30
won a
years.
playoff game.
I
Woohoo!
know. And it was close too. And there was controversy because, you
Isn't
know,
there always?
isn't there always, especially when the Raiders are involved? There's just something going on. There's something spectacular that will happen, whether that's good or bad. So,
Dude, speaking of Raiders dramatics, apparently Damon Arnett got signed by the Chiefs.
he did. Yep. Guy, he was
So that's a thing that happened.
Cornerback that was let go by the Raiders after threatening somebody over social media. And the Chiefs are like, hey, we'll take you. So
that's a thing that happened. But I mean, in this game, Burrow and Chase were on it per usual. I mean, they're both really good. Chase is probably going to win Rookie of the Year. I think he deserves it. He's really good. They played together in college. And as surprises no one, they are still good together in the NFL. So, as for Las Vegas, what do you think about Derek Carr? Apparently, there are rumblings going on that apparently whoever gets hired for their GM and their head coach positions will determine what's going to be done with Carr. Do you think Carr is going to get shipped off somewhere else, or do you think they're going to hold on to him?
I think that I could see either way. I mean, Carr is definitely not the worst quarterback you can have. And at times, he can look like a top 10 quarterback. The problem is it's never consistent. He's good enough to win with, but you'd have to put a really good team around him. And I don't think the Raiders are just there yet. They'd need an elite defense, and they would need a lot of good pieces around him on offense. I mean, we even say that Stafford needs that, and I would say Stafford is better than Derek Carr by quite a margin. So I'm going to say that I could see the Raiders seeing like, look, we need to move on. It's been a few years now and it hasn't worked. And does it normally work after being with one quarterback so long? I don't really think it does. So I could see them moving on, honestly. No offense to Derek Carr. It's not that he's bad or anything like that. He will find a job somewhere, definitely. But he hasn't had a season close to his MVP season in a while. So,
I mean, I think if they did trade him, that they could get multiple firsts for him, or at minimum a first and a second. I mean, they can definitely get some capital for him if they believe in a guy in the rookie QB class that they think would fit in really well in their system, or if they decide to ride with Marcus Mariota. Who knows? But they could definitely get some capital out of a team for this dude if that's what they wanted to do. Plus, they could get rid of his contract as well. Not that it's the worst contract in the league, but with quarterbacks, they're always going to have big contracts. It's just part of it. So, I mean, you wouldn't have to worry about paying a rookie for a few years while he's on his rookie contract. So, I mean, I think that there's an argument either way. And I think Derek Carr is good. I think he's probably top 15, but I don't think he's great, right? He kind of reminds me of Carson Wentz, like above average. But like, you could probably get better. Not that they're bad, but you could do better, So it'll definitely be interesting. I could see him ending up in a variety of places. I mean, I don't think that this will happen because they are division rivals, but what if he went to the Broncos? I mean, the Broncos are arguably really only a quarterback away from being a playoff contender. I mean, they almost made the playoffs this year with Teddy B. Not that Teddy B and Drew Lock are the worst ever, but admittedly, they're probably not going to get you to the Super Bowl, right? So, I mean, imagine if Derek Carr goes to the Broncos, ignites that offense. I mean, if you're a Raiders fan, you would hate that, right? Because they're in your division. So that's why I say the probability of that happening is probably pretty low. But I mean, there's a lot of places that he could go, including Indy, which I'd not be totally salty about. But we'll just see. I do think that they should hire Rich Bisaccia because that dude got the Raiders to the playoffs after everything that happened to their team. And I think he proved his worth. And if they don't hire him, that's trashy. Yeah. Like, that would be very Las Vegas if you don't hire him. He deserved it. Honestly, it wouldn't even surprise me if he won Coach of the Year. I mean, John Gruden gets fired. Ruggs gets arrested. Arnett gets released. Your other rookie gets released. Oh, you made the playoffs? Wow. Like, hire the man. Like, he deserves it.
I agree. He has a very strong case to be like, what other coach has done this?
If they don't hire him, what are they going to do? Get Harbaugh from Michigan or Flores? I mean, not that I think either of those guys are bad. Like, I think they're both really good. But Bisaccia knows that team in and out. He carried them from the depths of Las Vegas to the playoffs. Give the man a shot. I mean, you don't need to sign him to a mega contract. Sign him to like 2 years. Just see what he can do.
I agree. Well, there you have it, folks. Just kind of our week recap of Super Wildcard Weekend. And now we just want to move on to our segment, which is a fan favorite, what we haven't done in a while. We've got the hot take of the week coming back. Oh, snap. And today, we've got a good one.
Which you are going to be spearheading.
I don't even know. Well, I mean, it's a hot take. Anyways, we have a hot take of the week from Jonathan, our good friend. And he says that Sam Darnold can still be a top 10 QB with a good offensive line and competent coaching staff. Well, Mr. Jonathan, I see what you mean. I see what you're saying. He was not given a good line. We know that. He wasn't really given a good coaching staff, but that's not changing anytime soon. I'm sorry. That's just not. Like, Tepper, by not firing rule, has said, look, I'm in it for next year, at least. So, and there's no way if Sam Darnold plays bad again next year that they're going to re-sign him again, or there's no justification for it. So, top 10, in my opinion, is stretching it, because I'm going to be honest, Sam Darnold at times can make a good play, but the problem is, and like, I know people are saying his line's terrible, his line's terrible. We know that. The problem is a lot of his interceptions came when he was wide open and had time. Like, a lot of them would come when he had, like against the Patriots, for example, when he threw 2 to JC Jackson. Nobody was rushing him. I mean, they were rushing him, but it wasn't like they were sacking him, and he was trying to throw it out of a sack or like make some superhuman play to get the first down. No, he had a clean pocket, or he had time. And on those throws, or the throws where disaster happened, at least on a sack, you can punt the ball. So I don't know. And even against the Saints this year, at the end of the game, at the second Saints game, Sam Darnold's first game back, had time at the end to throw the ball, had a clean, and that's where he threw the pick. They're going to say, well, he was sacked 7 times. Yes, we're not acknowledging that that's not a problem. We're not. But the truth is, even Matt Stafford behind a terrible Lions team still showed that he could play, Even Deshaun Watson with a bad, Houston team not too long ago. Yeah, like a bad just he showed he could still play. I'm just saying that maybe Sam Darnold's a guy, maybe if you gave him everything possible, he could do it, but I don't see it. I don't see what these coaches saw in him before the season. I don't know why they wanted to pick him, and it obviously just didn't work this year. Even in the games where we went 3-0, he wasn't bad, but he wasn't spectacular. And those 3 teams we beat were just not good. So, like, look, I mean, neither any of those teams we beat in the first 3 games of the season, none of them made the playoffs. None of them made any noise. I'm like, look, I can see the point here. Look, and I get what they're trying to say. I just think this is a hot stretch. I just don't think it'll happen. I don't see this happening. If it does, prove me wrong. Cool. I'm okay with being proved wrong here. But there's no evidence for it. I'm be honest, it is a hot take without evidence. And I know that's a lot of hot takes, I guess. But there's not really any numbers or ways that we can really back this up. I don't know. What do you think, Chelsea?
I think that this is a hot take, and it is exactly what we asked for. We asked for a hot take, and that is what we received. I think that there is an argument that the Panthers O-line is better than how the Jets was, because at least the Panthers have Moton. The Jets really had no one. And I will sit here and I will say at the beginning of the year, I sat right here and I said, if Sam Darnold is going to turn his career around, it's going to be with Carolina, right? Like, does he have a good O-line? No, but he had Christian McCaffrey. He had DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, a really good pass rush on defense, some playmakers. So, I mean, he didn't really have that at the Jets, like really any of it, if we're being honest. So if he was going to turn it around, it would be with Carolina, right? He has weapons. He has a defense. He seemingly, we thought, had a good offensive coordinator, but perhaps not now. I think that him being a top 10 quarterback is never going to happen. I think the best that you would ever get out of him is probably Derek Carr-esque stats. So like above average, but like not spectacular, not Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, none of those guys, like not spectacular. Like I think he could be good enough somewhere. I mean, I think if you put him on like the Rams, he'd probably not do that bad because the Rams literally have everything going for them. If we're being honest, I think that any quarterback the Panthers are going to take is probably going to look mediocre at best unless they address the O-line to begin with. So, I mean, you could go take Bryce Young next year, and would he be a lot better than Sam Darnold? Yeah. But he'd have the same problem, which is the O-line. So, I mean, I think you got to at least address 3 of 5 O-line spots before you can truly expect above average play out of a quarterback unless they're just a superstar, which Sam Darnold has proven he is not. And don't get me wrong, like I want Sam Darnold to be good. Like we're not rooting for Sam Darnold to be bad. Like he's on the Panthers. Chris is a Panthers fan. Like he wants his team to be good. It's paining him that they are not, which I understand. So it's not like we want him to be bad. It's just, if you just look at the way that he's played, he just doesn't have it. I mean, if anything, for the rest of his career post Panthers, he'll probably be a high-end backup. And that's it. I mean, the dude's been in the league for what, 5 years now? Because he was the same class as Josh Allen. So what, 3, 4, 5 years? So, I mean, he's had more than 1 or 2 years. He's had years to develop, and he just hasn't. So I don't agree with this. It would be great if it happened. And like Chris said, prove me wrong. Like, I hope it happens. I hope Sam Darnold comes out next year and just absolutely obliterates everyone he plays against and proves the entire world wrong. Like, that would be epic. But if we're being honest with ourselves, I don't think anyone thinks that's going to happen.
Pretty much. Well, still appreciate the hot take, though. Please send in your hot takes. It makes the show a lot more fun for not only us, but the audience, too. So if
yes,
because
you get to participate and interact. We love doing them. So please send them in.
Exactly. All right. And now for our last section here, let's go dive into the game picks we've got for this week. So the first game we're going to pick here, Bengals at Titans. I went with the Titans. They are the 1 seed for a reason, even though they are not like a dominant 1 seed. It's kind of crazy. They've gotten here. They've won their games. They've done what they've had to do. And Derrick Henry, King Henry, is back. And we're going to potentially see him run over the Bengals. Is he going to be as strong as he was earlier in the season? Who knows? I don't know.
Jonathan Taylor's still better.
Oh, uh-oh. Spicy. There's a hot take. But yeah, I think it could be a really good game. And I could see the Bengals winning this, especially if the Bengals can jump to a lead. They're better at probably playing behind than the Titans might be. And, they might even be able to blow out the Titans. This is going to be a clash of game styles. And I think that'll make it really fun. So, but I'm going to go with the Titans here.
Yeah, so unfortunately, Derrick Henry is back, which gives the Titans a much larger chance to win this game than they had previously. Obviously, I'm not advocating that I wish Derrick Henry was still hurt. I wish no players were hurt. Being hurt is terrible. But as a Colts fan, admittedly, I don't want the Titans to win. But from my unbiased standpoint, at least that I try to, I'm going to pick the Bengals because I think the Bengals are more explosive. And they may not have a better defense and they may not have a better running game, but they have a better passing game. And the playoffs are unfortunately won most of the time because of quarterback play. I think that Joe Burrow is better than Ryan Tannehill. I think he's more consistent than Ryan Tannehill. I think he has more explosiveness than Ryan Tannehill. I think he could run more than Ryan Tannehill. I think he's better than Ryan Tannehill. But Joe Burrow has a tendency to throw a lot of interceptions. If Joe Burrow throws 2 interceptions or more in this game, I don't think they'll win. Like, it's going to come down to Joe Burrow being able to not throw interceptions in this game. They need to be able to run the ball with Joe Mixon, who was one of the best backs in the league, by the way, which is kind of surprising to people because just not a lot of people follow the Bengals, but he had over 1,000 yards. So he had a really good year. Joe Mixon needs to make an impact in this game, whether it's rushing or passing, doesn't really matter, but he needs to be involved. You can pretty much guarantee that the Titans are going to double team Jamar Chase. So that means that their other receivers are going to have to show up and their tight end because you will not be able to rely on Jamar Chase this entire game. But like you said, I think if the Bengals can get a lead and hold the lead, I think it's going to be hard for the Titans to come back because the Titans are very run dependent. I mean, they still, for the most part, were run dependent even when Derrick Henry was out. Can't run the ball 25 times if you're down 3 touchdowns. Put the ball in Ryan Tannehill's hands. Don't get me wrong, Ryan Tannehill will make plays. Like, he's not a bad quarterback. He's just average, in my opinion. Like, he's good enough to score points and get touchdowns and be smart with the ball, but he's not going to carry their team. Derrick Henry is going to carry their team. So if they can limit Derrick Henry to like less than 150 yards in this game and Joe Burrow doesn't turn the ball over, I think that they can win this game.
All right. Now the next game we got here is the 49ers at Packers. So I'm going to go with the Packers. They are the 1 seed for a reason. They are good. They have been the most consistent team in the NFL when it comes to winning. And while the 49ers have had a nice little run here, beating the Cowboys, great win for them. I'm going to go with the Packers on this one. The 49ers have a chance, though. The Packers are not unbeatable in my eyes. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be the first time they went into hostile territory and won a playoff game. So who knows? But I do think the Packers will get this game done.
You know what the scariest part about the Packers is that 2 of their defensive stars haven't even played. And they have some of their linemen out too, and they're still doing what they're doing.
Crazy.
So if a team runs into the Packers when they get some of those guys back, that's going to be really hard. I'm going to go with the Packers as well. I think that they are the best team in the NFC. I don't think the 49ers are a joke, though. Like, I don't think that this game will be a blowout. If the 49ers can run the ball against the Packers, this game will not be a blowout. But I do think that the Packers will win, especially if it gets put on the shoulders of the quarterbacks. Obviously, I'm going to take Aaron Rodgers over Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm going with the Packers as well.
All right. The next game we got here are the Rams at the Bucks. This is honestly a toss-up in my eyes, but I'm going to go with the Bucks. I mean, the Rams did beat them pretty convincingly early in the year, but this is Tom Brady playoff mode. Like, this isn't regular season mode anymore. He's something different when it comes to the playoffs. So I think this game's gonna be tough. It's at Tampa, which is helpful for the Bucks. But yeah, I think they will come out on top, even though the Rams by lineup have the star-studded cast. Excuse me. I don't know. I just think the Bucks will get this one done. I have a feeling.
I mean, there's no denying that no one, I think arguably in the history of the NFL, there's no quarterback that makes people who are not stars look like stars more so than Tom Brady. I mean, Tom Brady's done that his entire career, right? He can turn a guy off the street into the most dominant receiver for one game that's just how he is, you know. But I don't know. I have a feeling. I think the Rams are going to go into Tampa and beat them. I don't think it will be by a lot. I think it will be by quite a small margin, actually. But if the Rams play this game completely like they played the game against the Cardinals, I think that they can beat the Bucs, especially with some of the injuries they have on offense. I think that the Rams come out and they double team Mike Evans. They put Jalen Ramsey and someone else on Mike Evans, and they make everyone else beat them. No AB, no Godwin. Not that the guys underneath them are bad. They obviously are not, and have shown through the injuries that they can go out and they can perform. And I think that they will. I just don't think it will be enough. I think that the Rams are going to have to run the ball in this game, which is a tall task because the Bucs have a very, very good run defense. So they're going to have to mix it up, do some crazy stuff, maybe run some Deebo Samuel-esque plays with Cooper Kupp to get some rushing yards. But I do think that they will win. I think it will be very close because ultimately you are playing a Tom Brady-led team and his specialty is not losing playoff games. So it's going to be hard. But I mean, I think it's a toss-up, honestly. I think either team could win, but I don't know if they can shut down Mike Evans and make everyone else beat them. Then, I mean, shut down Mike Evans and Gronk, make everyone else beat them. I think it's possible. So I'm gonna take the risky pick, and I'm gonna take the Rams, but I'm a little scared. Not gonna lie.
All right. I think that's a fair pick, though, honestly. And lastly, we've got the Bills at Chiefs. We both went with the Chiefs on this one, I see. So I think the Chiefs are probably going to win this game. I mean, they've won it before in these games. I think that, honestly, though, I could see the Bills. Even though we've both picked the Chiefs, I feel like that's kind of the quote unquote safe answer. But I will say the Bills have looked really good by the end of this year. So, I do think the Chiefs will probably win this game, but don't be surprised to see the Bills make this a heck of a game or, just make this really rough on the Bills or just make it really rough for the Chiefs or even win it. Don't be surprised, but it's hard to win in Arrowhead,
Yeah, it being at the Chiefs definitely does not help the Bills' case. But I will say, if it does snow, they will not have a problem because it will snow in Arrowhead. But, the Bills are going in. If it snows, everyone's like, woohoo, snow. And they all go out there without shirts on. So, that's just Bills Mafia for you. They just don't believe in being warm. I think that if the Bills score 7 straight touchdowns against the Chiefs, like they did against the Patriots, that they'll win. But I don't think that will happen. But if it did, I think they'd win. I mean, like Chris said, I picked the Chiefs too. I think the Chiefs are going to be really hard to beat at Arrowhead. But I do think it will be a game. Like if this is a boring game, I will be very surprised. Like the Bills will make this a game and it will be a fun game. And I think that it will be very close. But ultimately, I think that the Chiefs will edge them out. And if the Chiefs edge out the Bills, right, who are probably arguably their biggest competition in the AFC side of the playoffs, if the Bengals or Titans, doesn't matter. I mean, I'd probably still take the Chiefs at that point, just because of how dynamic their offense is and how their defense is rebounded. But for this game, I'm going to go with the Chiefs. It is the safe pick. I am also a little scared about this pick because I could see the Bills winning if they play really, really good like they did against the Patriots. But it being at Arrowhead, I don't know. I think it's just going to be too hard.
All right. Well, there you have it. There's our game picks. And when we get back to this next time, we will see how all of this ages. The NFL season is coming to a wrap, but there's still a lot more football to talk, but we'll go ahead and do our outro here. Chelsea, if you want to lead us out.
Yeah, for sure. So thanks for listening, guys. Tune back in next week for more content. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter at _LCFootball_ and on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Launchcodes Football. I'm Chelsea.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next week. Go Bengals.
See ya.